when we multiply or have multiplication with our variables, the nice thing about multiplication is it's just like addition. You always do the opposite. Multiplication with variables is almost always written like this. Not 100% of the time. Sometimes they'll use a parenthesis, but not very often. Usually you'll see a number right next to a variable if they're going to show multiplication. So here, this part of the equation is read as 6 times y equals 18. So I want to work to get that 6 out of there. And I need to do the inverse or the opposite operation, which means the opposite of multiplying is to divide. So to get that 6 away from the y, I'm going to have to divide. And I show division this way just because it's an easy way to write it. So that 6 divided by 6 is 1. Well, 1y is the same as just having 1y there. You don't have to have the number in front. So really this just cancels it out. But remember, whatever we did to one side of the equal sign, we have to also do to the other. So because I divided by 6, I have to divide by 6 here. So y equals 18 divided by 6 is 3. If I want to check myself, I can go ahead and substitute in this 3 where y is. Now remember, that's not 63, it's 6 times 3, and 6 times 3 does give me 18, so that's the correct answer. Number 2, why don't you guys go ahead and try number 2, and I'll also slide out another one that you can try on your own. No, we'll do that one together. Just because it's a fraction set. I'm going to shift 2 off to the side. We'll go ahead and put this one up, and we'll do this one together, then I'll put 2 out on the board. So here I have 4/5 times n equals 9/10. So we're still going to think in terms of that 4/5. It's a number. So 4/5 times n, well, to get rid of it, we're going to divide by 4/5. Cancels it out. Whatever I did to one side of the equal sign, I have to do to the other. So I'm going to divide. In this case, I'm going to write it because I'm working with fractions to the right of it. So divide by 4/5. Now, hopefully you remember when you divide fractions, you can't really divide them. You have to multiply by the reciprocal. And lots of times kids forget what reciprocal is. That's where you just got to flip the fraction over. So now I just am going to rewrite this. N equals 9/10 times 5/4. Now, some people will go through ahead and just, we'll go through and just go ahead and multiply straight across. I don't like to reduce large numbers, so I tend to look first to see if I can cross cancel. Now that's a 10, not a 16. I apologize for my writing. But can I cross cancel? Is there a number that both 5 and 10 can be divided by? Well, sure. 5 will go into both of them. So 5 would go into 5 once, and 5 would go into 10 twice. And then if I check the other set, my 4 and my 9, they do not have a common factor. So I'm going to go ahead and leave those. So now I'll multiply straight across. 9 times 1 gives me 9, over 2 times 4 gives me 8. So 9/8, that can also be written as, well, 8 would go into 9 once, which would put me at 8. I have 1 left over to get to the 9, so 1/8. So either of these answers are acceptable. You have to be comfortable with converting between both of them. If you hadn't reduced, you would have had 45/40, which would then go through and reduce down because, let's see, 5 would still go into 45 and 40, and it would reduce down to what we originally had. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pull that number 2 back out so that you guys can practice that one on your own. So this is where you can go ahead and pause your video if I move too fast to the next problem. This would be a problem that you can go ahead and do and then ask me to kind of check to make sure that it's correct. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to our last set, and that's working with division. Division with variables. So division is like subtraction. When you have division present in the equation, it depends on where your variable is in the equation as to whether you will multiply or whether you'll divide. So whether you're going to do that inverse, multiply, the opposite, or whether you're going to do that flip-flop thing and keep it as division. So if we look once again at number 1, remember on the subtraction one, when I had the box around it, it was that front number. Same thing here. Had this been written out horizontally, it would look like this. So if you need to rewrite those division problems, you can, but hopefully you'll start to visualize and be able to see so that you don't have to take the time to rewrite it. But if you need to rewrite it, go ahead and rewrite it. So I see that front number, and I know in division that front number, at least until we start working with negative numbers, is always the biggest number. So how could I get a bigger number between 10 and 120? If currently it's division, my options are either dividing or multiplying. Well, if I divide, that's going to give me a smaller number for an answer. And I just said that I need a bigger number because it's on that top or it's in the front when it's written horizontally. So to get a bigger number, I'm going to have to multiply. So that's the inverse. Here's my equal sign. So I'm going to go times 10. To get rid of it, now I have k left by itself, equals times 10. Okay, I'm pretty good with multiplying by tens because I can just add the zeros. So 1 times 12 is 12, and then add 1, 2 zeros. You should get 1200. If you want to check it, substitute in where k is. In either of these equations, I'll substitute it in up here. So right now I've got k divided by 10. So if I go ahead and put my 120 where k is, and I'll do this on the calculator. Sorry, not 120, 1,200 divided by 10. It should give me the 120, and it does. Okay, if you wanted to see how I would do this without having to rewrite it, it's just in the way it looks. This is the same as saying times 10 over 1. See, the 10 cancels each other out, but I don't usually write that over 1. I just know that, hey, to cancel it out, I'm doing the opposite by multiplying by 10. So that cancels out. And then I would just go times 10, or I'd write it down below. It doesn't matter. It's still going to give me the 1,200 as an answer. Okay, in number 2, it's a little different because we've got m as our bottom. Okay, just remember this top number, or the number that's sitting out in front, if it's written horizontally, has to be the largest number. So I can't get a bigger number than that. You know, when we start working with integers, you'll still use the same rules. It's just that, yeah, sometimes you end up with a negative number. But for right now, just to get that pattern down, I'm just going to jump back to in elementary. This was always had to be my biggest number. When I was in 5th grade and I was dividing, I had to remember this always had to be the bigger number when I was setting up my equations. So if that has to be the biggest number, I don't want one bigger. Oh, look, this kind of looks like the subtraction too. So if I remember from my subtraction situation, remember when I told you had that subtraction sign here, which right now it's a division? We can use that same concept of doing the flip-flop. So we can now just flip-flop those. So now if I rewrite it, 132 divided by 11, that's going to tell me what m is. If you keep it in this format, that's fine. Then you just have to visually understand that we can go ahead and do the little flip-flop. And I think I have that over here. I shifted it. I guess I didn't have to write all of that. So that's working with it horizontally. But if you just remember that, hey, when the m's on the bottom, I get to do that flip-flop thing. Now, when I flip-flop it, I keep that same operation. So 132 divided by 11. When I do that, it gives me 12 for m. Okay, if I want to check it, I can substitute 12 in for this spot right here. And then I can use my calculator to check it. If I put 12 here, if I punch in 132 divided by 12, it should give me that answer of 11, and it does. Okay, so that's how you can check yourself. Okay, so I want you guys to go ahead and practice these two and see how you do. So it's working with that division. Okay, so if we go ahead and check, you can check yourself really quick. And I'm going to work through this kind of fast. Largest number should be there, which tells me to get a bigger number, I need to multiply. So to get this z by itself, here's my equal sign, I have to get rid of this 12. So I'm going to go times 12. And really it's 12 over 1, so those cancel out. Okay, so over here I'm going to go times 12. And here I'm not really checking to see, are you great at multiplying one hand? It's good practice, but right now I'm checking to see, do you really know the steps that you need to take to solve it? So 264 times 12 is going to give me z equals 3,168. Okay, and so that's what you should have gotten for the first one. For the second one, this should be my largest, right? So I don't want one bigger. Oh yeah, my visual cue is this is on the bottom, or if it was written like this, that division sign is kind of like the subtraction sign. It's my visual cue. I can do a little flip-flop here. Or I could flip-flop if I just want to leave it in that format. So now I see it as this, 210 divided by 15 is going to tell me what B is. Okay, I'll do this one longhand just so that you can hear kind of the things that I think as I'm dividing. 210 divided by 15. Okay, so 15 won't go into 2, but into 21, that's pretty easy. That's only once. So 1 times 15 is 15. 11 minus 5 is 6, and this was 1 minus 1, so it cancels out. So there's my 0. I'm pretty good with time. So when I think of a clock, 15, then 30, then another one's 45, then another one's 60. That's 4 times. So now 4 times 15 gives me 60. I'm done. So we should have gotten 14 for this one. So B equals 14. Okay. Well, I believe that is the end of my lesson. So hopefully you're able to go through and work through your problems out of the journal book. And the journal book page is page 6 out of your blue journal book.